Hi there, I'm Wendy and welcome to the second episode of It's a Knitting and Crochet Thing podcast. And this is a new series of videos that's going to slot in amongst my knitting and crochet tutorial and technique videos that are already up and running on my YouTube channel. So just to start with, my name is Wendy and my YouTube channel is Wendy Paul Designs, and I have knitted and crocheted ever since I was a child, and by trade I'm a dressmaker. So I'll start off by just saying where you can contact me, and you'll find me on most of the social media platforms. So I'm on Instagram, Facebook, Ravelry, Pinterest, Twitter, and I have also posted now some of my reels on TikTok as well. But you will find I post probably predominantly on Instagram. So in this episode, I've got some finished projects to show you and also some work in progress projects to show you as well. And that includes the Postcards With Love Crochet along that I'm making up at the moment, and I'll also show you the yarns that I'm hoping I will get on my needles before the next episode as well. And I'll also talk to you a little bit about the other side of me, which is more health orientated, and tell you about some of the subjects that I'm going to bring up in a future episode with regards to being left-handed and right-handed, and when you get some of those aches and pains in your fingers and hands and shoulders. But for now, we'll go straight into looking at finished objects and crack on with episode 2. So the very first thing to show you is my shawl here, and that is the Bee Happy Shawl, as in a honeybee. And the Bee Happy Shawl is designed by Samantha Hinks, and the pattern is still available on Ravelry. Now, I bought mine in a kit form from her with her yarn, and that was, it was before the pandemic came in, and it was from Stitch Vest, which, for anyone that's not familiar with the southwest of the UK, Stitch Vest is a fibre festival that started in Totnes, but the last one now had moved to Newton Abbot. So I bought this off her before the pandemic, and it was a dream to make. I loved using the yarn, I loved making the pattern, and it's really comfortable and easy to wear. And Stitch Vest came back again after the pandemic, and I went there and I wore it, and she saw me from a distance, and so she was really pleased to see one of her shawls actually made up. So I love it, and I do wear it a lot. So that is the Bee Happy Shawl. So the other thing that I have to show you is my virus shawl, and that's the one that was just there on the mannequin, which I'll put back in a minute. And I love the colours on it, and it's made using a Hobby Cotton Kings Pastello yarn cake, and I used the whole yarn cake to make it. And it was funny actually, because I felt like I was crocheting with the green forever. I thought it was never ever going to change colour, and then all of a sudden it just erupted at the end, and the white at the edge really lifted it all and stopped it feeling quite so green. Really nice to work with. However, I would say that it's 4 threads that aren't spun, so if you're a newer crocheter you might find that a little bit more difficult to handle than just using a normal traditional yarn type thread. So that is my virus shawl. I just quickly wanted to show you this because this is the same yarn but just in a different shade, and when I'm using one of these yarns that's got 4 separate threads that haven't been spun together, I like to pop a bead or a button onto the yarn, and I find that that helps the yarn sort of just stick together a little bit more, and it trains them to cling on to each other, and that helps prevent the stitches from splitting as I'm working them. So I'm going to pop that back now onto the mannequin, and then we can look at my socks. And these are my latest makes when it comes to sock knitting, and I think I said in my first episode that I just love sock knitting. I've always got a pair of socks on the go, very often just plain simple socks using a really fancy yarn, and it's something that I can just pick up and throw down, and they're great. So this yarn is Starcraft Head Over Heels, and that's from their new Colours of the World range. And again, I just love the way the patterning came out. I didn't have a clue that it was going to turn out into this. I just assumed it was going to be a gradient. But the pattern I've used is my own pattern, and I'll be publishing that very soon. And that is a toe-up pattern with some German short row heels. And I'm working on the sizes at the moment, so I'm just doing a variety of sizes for these, and then very soon that will be out. But yes, that's my latest socks, and I've already got another pair on the go as well, so I'm going to show you those in a minute. So I think that's my finished objects for today to show you. So now I'm going to go on to the works in progress, and I'm going to start off with the postcards from Love Crochet Along. So if I hold it up, this is a progress so far. So I'm going to bring it in a little bit closer, and I'll appear the other side. And that's the central motif and the first round of 4 postcards with the heart motifs in each corner. So the pattern then tells you at this stage to actually make this section up, which I've done. So I've crocheted that all together, and I've now finished working the postcards. So on the second layer, you've then got another set of these postcards, which again you can personalize, and they're a bit different. And then you also have postcards with words on them. So I'm going to show you the postcards that I've made now. So this is where we start, and I've got a story over this first postcard to tell you about in a minute. So this is the first one. Wish you were here. And then the second one is really nice because that says with love. And that is how the pattern has been written to tell you to do those 2 words. And from there, I needed to have 2 more, which should have been another wish you were here and another saying with love. But I've personalised them because my blanket is going to go and live in a yarn shop, and it's going to go and live in a yarn shop in Bodmin in Cornwall called Knit Happens. So my next postcard says Knit Happens. So I was quite pleased with that one. And then Knit Happens is in Bodmin. So there we go, I've made one with Bodmin. So my postcards that are going to go around the second layer are going to say wish you were here with love, Knit Happens, Bodmin. However, the tail didn't finish there, because we're all capable of making mistakes, aren't we? And I made this, posted a picture on Instagram, was really happy with my picture I posted on Instagram, and then I looked at it, and I looked and I could see that I'd worked 2 W's differently. I'd worked one as a capital letter and one as a lowercase letter. And you know, sometimes you can let a mistake go, and sometimes it just bugs you. And it's that thing that once you know, and you know it's there. And I couldn't help it. It was just really, really irritating me. So I decided that I was going to do a repair on this upper one. So I was going to make them both lowercase. So I know theoretically the first letter of a sentence or a phrase would have a capital letter, but I decided I'd rather just have them matching, because on another square there was another lowercase w. So I decided that I was going to alter this top one, and I made a quick Instagram reel, which I'll post here now, so you can see very, very quickly, because I think it's only a 15-second reel. But I did that showing how I just quickly did a repair actually to the crochet, just to prove that you can actually repair your crochet without pulling it back sometimes. So I've now gone back in and re-edited this reel so it's now at the normal speed, and you can see step by step exactly how I work this process. So the reel lasts about 4 minutes, and at the end of the reel you'll notice on the back of my work there is a white gap, and that's where I've removed this section here. So what I did was I made 4 chain and make 3 UK double crochet across it, and then I just stitched it in either side so that it matches in with the rest of the back of the motif. Now, as I said, that lasts about 3 or 4 minutes, but if you want to, you can just fast forward or go to the description notes below where the timestamp for the next section will be if you're not going to watch this little bit. So we can see that the bottom W is correct and the top W is the one that I'm going to change, and I'm going to remove the very top of the center section of the W. So I'm carefully snipping those threads away, and I want to make sure that I leave no little pieces of yarn there or any red fibers. So I'm gently picking them out of the back as well, and then I'm going to take a needle and about 1 meter of white yarn, and I'm going to draw that through the double crochet stitch of the row above the W, and that's just a linking onto my live stitches. Then I'm going to continue cutting away those red fibers so that I've actually got a little hole here, and that hole is only 1 stitch, but I just want to make sure that there's no red little pieces there. Now I'm taking that yarn and I'm making a slip knot in one side, and as you can see, the yarn is then trailing through the bottom of the row above. So now I've done that, I can make that 1 double crochet, that 1 stitch that's missing in the cream yarn. So that's my 1 UK double crochet made. I'm now going to snip my yarn, leaving enough yarn to darn in afterwards. And then I'm going to fasten off, so I'm going to draw my yarn through the hook. And now I have my 2 ends. So quite simply now I'm going to thread a darning needle onto each of those ends and darn that end in the back of my work along either side, and that will then fill in that hole and will have replaced the stitch. So I'm just darning those ends in now and then taking it through to the back of my work. And that's one side complete. And then I'm going to repeat that on the other side as well. And there it's on the other side as well. And you can see now that that has rectified the problem and my W's look the same. So you can see now that I have this red gap here, but initially I'm just going to fasten off my ends and darn those in. So that's one side complete. And then I'll just do the other side as well. So that's both sides complete. So now I just have these loose ends with the red yarn. So I'm going to thread those onto the needle, and I'm going to just draw those through my threads and fasten off there so that those red ends have been secured. So that's one side done. And then I'm going to do the other side as well. And when those ends are darned in the red yarn, I'm just going to make 4 chain and make 3 UK double crochet across it and sew that across the gap, and it's all complete. So that was that. So the postcards now are all done and behind me. So now I feel like the main work of the blanket is done. I've still got to make 4 more postcards. So I've got to make 4 more of this type of postcard, and then I can do any embellishing and personalising that I want to do. And I've still got 4 more of these to make as well. And then there's also 4 more square motifs that I think they've got a sunset on them. So I've still got some work to do on it, but I feel that the hardest part of the blanket is all behind me, and it's all a bit more sort of the fun and embellishing side of it. So I'm really pleased with that, really pleased how that's going on. And you all know where my blanket's going now as well. So no surprise for the lovely shop owner, because she'll know, because she'll have seen it on here and on Instagram. So it can't be a surprise. So next work in progress is a little bit of knitting. And this is a summer top that I'm making. And this is called a Love Story. Now you can't really see a lot here, so I'm going to post a picture up of it here. And it's called Love Story. It's a pattern that I bought on Ravelry only about a week ago. And it's by Bee Happy. And I just thought it was really nice. I thought it was really wearable. Possibly not such a good idea to pick navy blue. I think you can see the patterning. But basically it's a vest top type top, and it's got some lace around the lower band. And what I really liked, it got a small little bit of lace in the scoop neck at the front, and it's got a panel of lace going across the back as well. And I just thought it was really flattering. However, I can't knit it late of the night because it's navy blue. That's my choice. And the yarn I'm using, I'm loving. I'm using James Brett 100% pure cotton, and I'll be honest, I've not used it before, and I was thinking I possibly wanted something with a bit of bamboo in it, but I'm actually finding it really nice and soft to knit with, so I'm really, really happy with that. So that is my daytime knitting project, which cannot be completed at the moment after 10 o'clock at night. So moving on, I did say that I always have a pair of socks on the go, and so this is the next pair, because I'm just testing out my sock pattern before I publish it in a couple of different sizes and a couple of different sock lengths. And I was actually teaching a toe up socks workshop the other week, and there was a lovely young lady there, and she was using this yarn, and I just fell in love with it. And if I just bring it up here so you can see the colours, I just thought the colours of it were absolutely stunning, and the colours actually look nicer on the sock than they did on the ball. So excuse me for having this piece of yarn wound around the edge, but I pulled the centre of my ball band out, and I pulled a great big knot of yarn out with it, so I've had to wind it all around. But this yarn is King Cole Zigzag, and the colour is called Butterfly, and it is absolutely beautiful. So this pair has been made with a German short row toe, and it's going to have a German short row heel. And as I say, the socks are going to have a couple of different lengths, and I'm working on a few different sizes just so that they can be photographed and people can see exactly what the alternatives are that they can make. But this is really fun to knit with, really addictive, because you keep wanting to carry on knitting to see the next beautiful colour emerge. And this is what I can take over knitting later over night time when I've had to put my navy blue knitting down. So that is my finished objects. So from there, I'm going to show you what I'm actually going to pop onto my crochet hooks and knitting needles next. So first of all, this one is quite straightforward actually, and it's just something I've been meaning to do and I've been putting off because I've just had other projects going on. And so if I say it in this video now, it's going to get done. And again, it's James Brett 100% pure cotton, and this is going to be a bucket hat. And basically I just want to have a nice sun hat that I can fold up and pop in my bag and take out. So this is going to be a crocheted bucket hat. I'm not going to do anything fancy. I just basically want it to be UK double crochet stitches. So I haven't chosen my pattern yet, but I will be doing that over the next couple of days. So you'll probably see some progress photos appear on Instagram, and hopefully in a week or so I'll be wearing it. So that's number one. And then number two is a project that I was going to start before I started the Postcards with Love crochet along. So I've just parked this for a little while, but I just love the yarn. So I had bought, I think it was six or seven balls of Serta Cashmerino, and that's Serta Cashmerino silk, and I'd got that again at Knit Happens, and I just loved it. And originally this was going to turn into a cardigan. However, I kept looking at the colour and I kept thinking, I'd like to lift it a little bit. So I've then gradually, bit by bit, bought some more colours. So I now have the pink. It's very soft, that's why it's sort of flopping. Bought the pink, and then I bought the yellow. I'm just going to put this down and have one of each colour because I think it's going to be a lot easier. So I'm going to start again. I've got the green, I've got the yellow, I've got the pink. Whoops, just stay. And am I going to make it work? Yes. And I've got this coppery brown as well. So I've now got 4 colours. So I think I'm going to have to do a fur roll yoke jumper because the colours are just going to lift it, and I think it's going to look lovely. So I was thinking of doing Trek by Tin Can Knits, but there's a couple of others now in the mix. So I'm going to try out a little bit of a sample with the colours to see what works and then decide which one to do. But as soon as my Postcards with Love is complete, this is what's going to appear on the needles as my next bigger project. And this is for me because I've knitted for my husband a fur roll jumper, I've knitted for my son and my daughter, and I've knitted myself a couple of plain jumpers over the last year, but I haven't knitted myself anything that's got some colour work. So that's on the list for me. And I think that is my finished projects, my works in progress, and what I'm going to make in the future, and I'm going to start over the next couple of weeks. I think that is complete. So now I'm just going to tell you about some of the other things that I'll be covering in future episodes that are all related to your knitting and crochet. So as well as being an avid knitter and crocheter and dressmaker, I just wanted to add an extra couple of things that are more health related to do with knitting and crochet as well. And so to start with, I just wanted to add that I'm left-handed, but I'm quite ambidextrous. So I crochet with my left hand, but I can crochet with my right hand as well. Albeit a bit slower, I can still crochet and teach people to crochet right-handed without having any problems. And when it comes to my knitting, my natural knitting style is English, where I have the yarn in my right hand, but I can knit continentally as well. And so when I'm doing fur roll, I'll have one yarn in the right hand and one yarn in the left hand. So with that, I took some time out a few years back and did some health and fitness qualifications. So I'm qualified as a personal trainer, and I've got some other fitness qualifications, as I said, that goes along with that. And then I went on to do a degree in health and sports science. So I've now got an understanding of anatomy and various health aspects. So in future episodes, I will be looking at advantages and disadvantages of using one hand or the other for knitting and crochet, and also looking at posture and looking at some of the things that can cause aches and pains in our fingers. And I would stress that I'm not here to diagnose specific medical problems. You would need to go and see your own medical practitioner for that. But sometimes, you know, getting some little tips and advice on how to change how you hold the yarn or needles or hooks or your posture can be really, really helpful. So that is something that I will be covering in my future episodes. So I think that pretty much wraps it up for now. And so I'm going to go and grab myself a cuppa And I'll just say to you, thank you for watching, and I hope you found it interesting. And I look forward to bringing you more things soon. And for now, I'll just say happy knitting, happy crocheting, take care, and I'll see you in a few weeks. Bye.